The sun was only beginning to rise over the thick forest. Mist rolled like soft clouds between the trees, and the sound of chirping birds echoed through the silent valley. The road that cut through this forest was narrow, cracked, and almost forgotten by time. Hardly anyone passed through it anymore. But that morning a man named Aaron was driving along this lonely path in his old pickup truck. His windows were down, the cold air brushing against his face, carrying the scent of damp leaves and wild earth. He wasn't rushing anywhere. He just loved driving through the forest before work, listening to the sounds of nature waking up. For a while, everything felt calm and peaceful. The sunlight filtered through the trees, drawing golden streaks on the road. But then something unusual appeared far ahead. From a distance, Aaron could see something large lying near the side of the road. At first, he thought it was just a fallen log or maybe an old tire. He slowed down, squinting to get a better look. But as he got closer, his heartbeat quickened. It wasn't a log. It wasn't just a tire either. There was something inside it. Something alive. Aaron stopped the truck, stepped out, and slowly walked closer. The forest felt strangely quiet now. No bird sounds, no rustling, only the crunch of dry leaves under his boots. His breath grew shallow as he realized what he was seeing. Inside that old heavy tire there was a bear, a young one, maybe a few years old, its neck completely trapped through the center of the rubber ring. The poor creature was lying motionless, its fur dirty and matted with mud, its eyes half closed, as if it had given up struggling. The smell of infection and decay hung faintly in the air. Aaron froze. His mind couldn't process it right away. How could a bear end up like this? The tire must have been discarded somewhere in the forest, and the curious animal had probably poked its head through it. But then it got stuck. The tire had become a deadly trap. He looked around. There were scratch marks on the nearby trees, footprints in the mud, signs that the bear had tried desperately to free itself. It must have been trapped for days, maybe even a week. No food, no water. Just pain and exhaustion. Aaron's eyes filled with sadness. He could see the bear breathing faintly, its chest rising and falling slowly, each breath sounding heavy and painful. He whispered softly, "Oh no, buddy. What happened to you?" He knew this was dangerous. A bear even weak could attack if it felt threatened. But something about the way the animal looked, the helplessness in its eyes, told him it wasn't a threat anymore. It was pleading silently for help. Aaron slowly stepped closer, his hands raised, his voice low and calm. "Hey there. Easy now. I'm not here to hurt you. I just want to help." The bear lifted its head weakly, its eyes meeting Aaron's for the first time. There was fear, yes, but also a strange spark of trust. A moment of silent understanding passed between man and animal. Aaron knelt beside it, careful not to make sudden moves. The tire was thick, probably from an old tractor or truck. It was tight around the bear's neck, cutting deep into the fur. The skin underneath looked raw, swollen, and bruised. He could see dried blood in some spots. He reached out his hand slowly, touching the rubber. It was hard, heavy, and cold. He knew there was no way he could pull it off with his bare hands. He needed tools, but if he left now, what if the bear died before he returned? He looked at the animal again. Its breathing was getting slower. He couldn't waste time. Aaron ran back to his truck and grabbed his toolbox. His hands trembled as he searched for a small saw, a crowbar, and a knife. He didn't know exactly what would work, but he had to try something. When he returned, the bear hadn't moved. Its head was resting against the tire, eyes half open, as if drifting between pain and sleep. Aaron knelt again and spoke gently. "Hang in there, big guy. I'm right here." He started sawing carefully at one side of the tire, making sure not to touch the bear's skin. It was slow, exhausting work. The thick rubber resisted every movement, and his arms began to ache. Sweat rolled down his forehead, even though the air was cold. The forest around him stayed silent. Only the sound of his saw against the rubber and the bear's faint breathing filled the space. He worked for what felt like hours, but the cut was still small. The tire was stronger than he had imagined. Every few minutes he paused to check on the bear. He spoke softly, keeping his voice steady. "It's okay. You're doing great. Just a little more." At one point, the bear let out a weak groan, a low, heartbreaking sound that made Aaron's heart tighten. He stopped for a moment, placing his hand gently on the bear's fur. "I know, buddy. I know it hurts. I'm sorry. He felt a strange bond forming. This wasn't just a rescue anymore. It was something deeper. A connection between two beings who somehow understood each other beyond words. After a while, Aaron realized he needed help. He pulled out his phone, but there was no signal. Nothing. The forest was too deep, too remote. He cursed under his breath, looking back at the bear. He couldn't abandon it. He took a deep breath and started again, sawing with renewed determination. The blade screeched through the thick rubber. His hands blistered, but he didn't stop. Hours passed. The sun climbed higher, and the forest changed from golden dawn to bright day. Finally, the first piece of rubber gave way with a sharp snap. The sound echoed through the trees. Aaron almost shouted with relief, but he still had half the tire left to cut through. He moved to the other side, his body shaking from exhaustion. As he worked, the bear suddenly twitched. Its paw moved slightly. It was gaining a bit of strength, or maybe reacting to the noise. Aaron froze, meeting the animal's gaze again. "It's okay, I'm still here. Don't move too much." The bear blinked slowly, breathing a little faster now. Maybe it could sense that freedom was near. After another long, painful hour, Aaron managed to cut deep enough that the tire started to loosen around the bear's neck. He set the tools aside and gently pulled at the edges. The bear groaned but didn't resist. Slowly, carefully, he pried the rubber open wider and wider, until finally, with one last push, the tire slid free. It rolled to the ground with a dull thud. Aaron sat back, panting heavily, his hands covered in dirt and sweat. For a moment, neither of them moved. The bear just lay there, stunned, its neck marked with deep wounds but finally free. Aaron smiled through tears. "You're free now. You did it." He watched the animal breathe more easily, the strain gone from its face. But he knew the wounds were serious. If left untreated, the infection could spread. He needed to help more. Maybe find some water, clean the wound, or get a vet. He stood up and walked to his truck again, looking for a bottle of water and a small first aid kit he always kept. When he turned back, something unexpected happened. The bear had lifted its head and was staring at him. For a second, Aaron froze. He didn't know if it was about to attack or run. But then slowly the bear stood up on shaky legs. Its body swayed weakly and it looked directly at Aaron. In that moment, everything went still. The wind stopped, the forest went quiet. Only the two of them, man and bear, stood there looking at each other. Aaron took a small step back, whispering, "It's okay. You're safe now." The bear blinked once, then twice. It took a step forward, not aggressive, just cautious. Its nose lifted, sniffing the air between them. And then, to Aaron's surprise, it let out a soft sound, a low, deep rumble, almost like gratitude. Aaron felt a lump rise in his throat. He couldn't explain what he was feeling. Relief, or maybe even love. The bear turned its head slightly toward the forest, as if deciding whether to leave or stay. But before it could move, its legs gave way, and it collapsed to the ground again. Aaron ran forward, kneeling beside it. The bear was breathing, but barely. It was too weak from starvation and blood loss. Panic filled Aaron's chest. He had freed it, but what if it didn't survive now? He looked around desperately. No one, no sound, just the endless forest stretching in all directions. He pressed his hand against the bear's fur, whispering, "Don't give up now, please." The bear's eyes fluttered open again, looking right into his. And in that moment, Aaron knew he couldn't leave it there. He had to do something more. He jumped up, ran to his truck, and started searching for ropes or blankets. He needed to lift the bear somehow, maybe take it to a rescue center miles away. But as he opened the back of the truck, a sudden noise echoed through the forest, a deep growl, distant but strong. He froze, his heart racing. It wasn't coming from the bear. It was coming from somewhere deeper in the woods. Aaron turned slowly, his eyes scanning the tree line. The air grew colder. Something moved in the shadows, something big. The bear on the ground let out a weak sound, almost like a warning, and Aaron realized they were not alone. Aaron froze in place, the sound of that distant growl echoing through the forest like a warning. It wasn't the weak voice of the bear he had just saved. It was deeper, heavier, and carried power behind it. Every instinct in his body told him to stay still. He turned his head slowly toward the trees. The sunlight was dim now, the thick canopy casting long shadows over the forest floor. Between the trunks, something was moving, something large. For a few seconds, Aaron's mind refused to believe it. But then he saw it, the unmistakable shape of a second bear, much larger than the one he had rescued. Its dark fur glistened slightly under the thin beams of light, and its eyes burned with a piercing intensity. Aaron's heart began to pound so hard he could feel it in his throat. Was this the mother? Or maybe the mate of the injured bear? The bigger bear stepped out from between the trees, letting out a low rumbling sound that made the ground seem to vibrate. It was close enough now that Aaron could see its massive paws, the way its nostrils flared as it sniffed the air. It had smelled everything: the sweat, the blood, the strange scent of a human near one of its own. Aaron took a small step backward, his mind racing. He whispered, barely audible, "Oh God, please don't misunderstand." The bear on the ground stirred slightly, its eyes opening again. It tried to lift its head but failed. It gave a soft whimper, a sound that was full of pain and fear. The larger bear's expression changed instantly. It looked down at the injured one, then back at Aaron. A protective instinct flashed in its eyes, and it let out a powerful roar that shook the trees around them. Birds scattered into the air. The sound echoed through Aaron's chest like thunder. He lifted his hands slowly, palms facing the bear. "I didn't hurt it, I helped. I swear I helped." But of course the bear didn't understand human words. The huge animal began to move closer, each step deliberate and heavy. Aaron could feel the vibrations through the soles of his boots. His brain screamed at him to run, to get into the truck and drive away. But his body refused to move. If he ran, it would chase. If he stayed, maybe there was a chance it would understand he meant no harm. He could hear his own breathing now, fast and shallow. The second bear was only a few meters away. It stood tall, sniffing the air, eyes locked on him. Aaron slowly crouched down, pointing gently toward the young bear. "Look, see? I freed it. I helped, please." He didn't know why he was talking, maybe to calm himself, maybe hoping the tone of his voice would somehow convey peace. The massive bear lowered its head toward the injured one, sniffing its neck where the Tyre had left deep wounds. It let out a low groan, a sad, almost mournful sound. Then it turned its gaze back to Aaron. For a terrifying moment they just stared at each other. The forest held its breath. Then the larger bear took one step backward, and another. It didn't attack. It moved closer to the injured one, and lay down beside it, pressing its nose gently against the younger bear's fur. Aaron watched in silence, tears welling up in his eyes. The sight was heartbreaking, a mother comforting her wounded cub. He wanted to move closer, to help again, but he knew he shouldn't. So he simply sat down on the ground a few feet away, trying to calm his racing heart. Minutes passed. The big bear kept nudging the younger one, licking the wounds gently as if trying to heal them through touch. It was one of the most powerful things Aaron had ever seen, pure wordless love in its rawest form. After a while, Aaron reached for his bag and pulled out the water bottle. He opened it slowly and poured some into a small tin bowl he kept in the truck. "Oh, you need water," he whispered softly, mostly to himself. He slid the bowl slowly toward the younger bear. The larger one lifted its head instantly, watching every move, its muscles tensing. Aaron froze for a moment, then slowly backed away again. "It's just water. It's okay." The mother sniffed the bowl, then looked back at her cub. The young bear sniffed weakly at it, its dry tongue lapping at the water. It drank only a little before resting its head again, exhausted. Aaron sat silently, watching. The forest began to come alive again, birds calling, wind whispering through the branches. The danger had passed, but the tension still hung in the air like a heavy shadow. Hours went by. The sun began to drop lower, its golden light turning orange and then red. Aaron knew he couldn't stay much longer. Night in the forest was dangerous. But how could he leave them like this? The cub still looked weak, and its wounds needed real medical attention. He reached for his phone again. Still no signal. He cursed softly, his voice breaking from frustration. He looked at the mother bear again. She was watching him silently, her golden eyes almost human in their depth. "I'm going to help," he said softly. "I'll come back with help. I promise." He stood up slowly, moving toward his truck. The mother's head followed his every step, but she didn't move. When he got in, he started the engine quietly, trying not to startle them. As he began to drive away, he looked in the rearview mirror. The image stayed burned in his mind. The mother bear curled protectively around her wounded cub. the evening light bathing them in orange glow. He drove fast once he cleared the forest road, his mind spinning with worry. He reached the nearest ranger outpost, an old wooden building near the edge of the forest. He burst through the door, his voice urgent. "There's a bear, 2 bears. One's injured, stuck in a tire. I freed it, but it's weak. Please, I need help." The ranger on duty, an older man named Jared, stood up immediately. "Where?" he asked. Aaron gave directions, his voice trembling as he described the location. Jared called for the wildlife rescue team. Within minutes, a small group of rescuers were gearing up. Tranquilizer rifles, medical kits, nets and ropes loaded into a jeep. Aaron insisted on going with them. "You won't find it without me," he said. Jared hesitated for a moment, then nodded. They drove back through the forest as the sky darkened. The headlights cut through the mist, and the sounds of the night began to grow. Distant howls, rustling leaves, the rhythm of crickets. Aaron's hands wouldn't stop shaking. He couldn't get the image out of his head. That look in the mother bear's eyes, the fear, the sadness, the trust. Finally, they reached the spot. The jeep stopped, and the rescuers stepped out, flashlights in hand. The forest looked different now, colder, darker. Aaron pointed. They were right there, just beyond that fallen tree. They moved slowly, flashlights sweeping through the shadows. And then one of the rescuers whispered, "There!" 2 shapes lay under a large oak tree, just as Aaron had said. But something felt different. The mother bear was still there, lying protectively around the cub. But neither of them were moving. Aaron's heart dropped. He rushed forward before anyone could stop him. "No, no, please." The rescuers followed carefully. As they got closer, they realized the truth. The cub was alive, breathing weakly. But the mother wasn't. It looked like she had used the last of her strength to protect her baby through the cold evening. She had laid herself around it, shielding it from the night. But her body was now still. Aaron fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "No, oh no." The rescuers stood silently, their hats in their hands, respecting the moment. The forest seemed to mourn with them. Even the wind was quiet. Jared placed a hand on Aaron's shoulder. "You did what you could, son. You saved 1 life today," but Aaron shook his head. "She trusted me, and she died." They worked quickly to help the cub. One of the rescuers injected a mild tranquilizer to keep it calm, then began cleaning its wounds with antiseptic and bandages. It groaned softly but didn't fight. Aaron stayed beside it the whole time, whispering softly, "You're going to be okay. I promise." When they lifted the cub onto a stretcher, it turned its head weakly toward him. Their eyes met again, that same unspoken connection, fragile but real. The team carried the cub to the jeep. Before they left, Aaron turned one last time toward the mother bear. The headlights illuminated her still body, her fur glowing faintly in the light. He stepped closer, kneeling beside her. He whispered, "Thank you for trusting me. I'll take care of your little one." For a long moment he stayed there in silence, hand resting on the forest floor. Then he stood up, wiping his tears, and followed the rescuers back to the vehicle. The drive back was quiet. The only sound was the hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of the cub's breathing in the back. The night outside was vast and endless, stars beginning to peek through the treetops. Aaron looked out the window, his mind heavy with emotion. He had set out that morning on a peaceful drive through the forest, and now he was leaving with a story he would never forget. But deep down, something told him this wasn't the end. The bear cub's fate, and the mysterious connection that had formed between them, was only just beginning, and somewhere, hidden among the whispering trees, something else watched as the jeep disappeared into the night, something that would soon reveal a truth Aaron never expected. The forest faded behind them as the rescue jeep rolled out onto the open road. The night sky stretched endlessly above, full of silent stars. The headlights cast long beams that danced over the cracked road. Inside the jeep, everyone was quiet, the kind of silence that follows something sacred, something too heavy for words. Aaron sat in the back next to the tranquilized bear cub. Its chest rose and fell in slow, steady breaths, its fur still damp from the rescue. He watched every movement carefully, his heart aching with both relief and sadness. The scent of antiseptic and forest mud filled the air. He looked down at the animal, whispering softly, "You're safe now, little one. I promise." The rescuers drove through the night until they reached the Wildlife Rehabilitation Center at the edge of the national park. It wasn't a big place, just a few fenced enclosures, a small wooden office, and a clinic that stayed open for emergencies like this one. When they stopped, a young veterinarian named Dr. Leah rushed out to meet them. Her eyes widened when she saw the bear on the stretcher. "Oh my, what happened?" Aaron stepped forward, still shaking slightly. "It was trapped in a tire for days. I cut it free." "But its mother," his voice cracked. "She didn't make it." Dr. Leah's expression softened. "You did the right thing bringing it here. Let's get it inside." The team carefully carried the cub into the examination room. Under the bright white lights, its wounds looked even worse. Deep cuts around the neck, swollen skin, patches of missing fur. Leah worked quickly, cleaning and treating each wound while her assistants held the bear gently in place. Aaron stood by the doorway, unable to look away. Every time the cub groaned, he flinched. Every time the doctor spoke softly to her team, he listened, memorizing every detail as if it were his responsibility now. After what felt like hours, Leah finally stepped back, wiping her hands. "It's stable," she said. "The wounds are bad, but not beyond recovery. It's dehydrated and weak, but it should pull through with rest and care." Aaron let out a deep breath he hadn't realized he'd been holding. His eyes stung as he said quietly, "Thank you." Leah looked at him curiously. "You were alone out there?" He nodded. "I was just driving through the forest. I didn't plan any of this. I just couldn't leave it." She smiled softly. "Most people wouldn't have tried. You probably saved its life." Aaron didn't answer. His thoughts drifted back to the forest. The image of the mother bear lying still, her body curled protectively around her cub. He could still feel the weight of that loss pressing against his chest. They left the cub resting on a soft blanket inside a small recovery pen. A heat lamp glowed gently above it, and a bowl of water sat nearby. Aaron crouched beside the bars, watching its slow breathing. Dr. Leah walked over and placed a hand on his shoulder. "You can stay the night if you want. We have a spare cot in the office." He nodded silently. "Thank you." As the hours passed, the forest outside fell into complete silence. Only the sound of crickets and the faint hum of the generator filled the night. Aaron couldn't sleep. He sat near the cub, listening to the rhythm of its breathing, wondering if it would ever understand what had happened, if it would ever remember him. Near dawn, as the first light touched the windows, the bear stirred. Its eyelids fluttered open slightly, and for the first time since the rescue, its eyes focused. Aaron leaned forward, heart pounding. "Hey," he whispered. "You're okay." The cub blinked slowly, studying him. It didn't move much, but its gaze lingered on him for several seconds, long enough for Aaron to feel that strange connection again. That silent understanding that had begun in the forest. He smiled faintly. "You're a fighter." Days passed. The cub slowly began to regain its strength. The deep wounds started to heal under Leah's careful care, and its appetite returned. It began standing up, exploring its small enclosure. Every time Aaron visited, which was every single day, the cub would turn its head toward him, sniffing the air as if it recognized his scent. Aaron began helping the rescue center, cleaning enclosures, carrying supplies, even feeding some of the injured animals. He told Leah he didn't want payment. He just wanted to help until the bear was ready to go back home. Over time, they named the cub Hope, a name that somehow felt right. Hope grew stronger each week. Its eyes became brighter, its fur thickened again, and the faint scar around its neck became the only reminder of the Tyre that had once trapped it. Aaron spent hours sitting near the fence, talking softly as Hope watched him. Sometimes it would sit down too, resting its large head on its paws as if listening. There was something almost human in those eyes, a mixture of trust, sadness, and understanding. But one morning, something unusual happened. Aaron arrived early, just after sunrise, and found Leah standing near Hope's pen, frowning. "She's been restless," Leah said, growling softly all night, pacing the fence. Like she senses something, Aaron approached slowly. Hope was standing near the edge of the enclosure, nose in the air, sniffing toward the forest beyond the center. Her fur bristled slightly. "Maybe she's remembering her home," Aaron said quietly. Leah nodded. "Maybe. Bears are incredibly sensitive. They can sense other animals from miles away. Or maybe—" She hesitated. Maybe she's remembering her mother. The words hit Aaron hard. He swallowed the lump in his throat and stepped closer to the fence. "Hey, Hope," he said gently. "It's okay. You're safe here." Hope turned to him, eyes wide, ears twitching. She let out a soft growl. Not aggressive, more like a warning. Then she looked back toward the forest again. Something about her behavior unsettled him. He couldn't explain it, but it felt like she was sensing something that they couldn't see. That evening, after everyone left, Aaron stayed behind. The night was cool and quiet. He sat near Hope's enclosure, watching the trees sway in the breeze. Suddenly a faint sound echoed from the woods, a deep, guttural growl. It came from far away but was unmistakable. Aaron froze. No, it can't be. Hope lifted her head instantly, her ears perked. She made a low noise in response, pacing near the fence. Her breathing quickened. Aaron stood up, staring into the darkness. "Leah!" he called out, running toward the office. She rushed out, flashlight in hand. "What's going on?" "Something's out there," Aaron said. "Another bear, I heard it." They both turned their lights toward the tree line. The forest was still for a few moments. Then the bushes rustled. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed closer. 2 glowing eyes appeared between the trees. Leah stepped back. "Oh my God!" Aaron's heart pounded as the figure emerged. It was another bear, enormous, muscular, and scarred. It stepped into the light, its dark fur shimmering. Hope let out a loud cry, almost like a roar of recognition. She stood on her hind legs, pawing the air toward the fence. Leah whispered, "That could be the father." Aaron's eyes widened. It made sense. The mother had died protecting Hope. This must be the mate, the one that had stayed deep in the forest searching for them. Somehow it had found her scent all the way here. The bear stood just outside the perimeter fence, breathing heavily. It looked around cautiously, then stared directly at Aaron and Leah. "Don't move," Leah whispered. "If it feels threatened, it'll charge." But something strange happened. Instead of growling or pacing, the large bear simply stood there, looking at Hope. The cub responded by pressing against the fence, making soft whimpering sounds. Aaron's heart was pounding, but his fear began to fade. What he saw next was pure, raw emotion. The father bear lowered its head slightly, almost like a bow. Then it let out a deep, mournful groan, a sound that seemed to echo through the night air. Hope answered with a cry of her own. Aaron couldn't stop the tears. "It found her," he whispered. "After all this time, it found her." Leah's eyes glistened. "This is incredible." For several long minutes, the 2 bears called softly to each other through the fence. A heartbreaking reunion, separated by human protection. Then, just as silently as it had come, the larger bear turned and began walking back into the forest. Hope watched until it disappeared into the shadows, then slowly lay down, resting her head on the ground. Aaron knelt beside her enclosure, whispering, "He'll come back for you, I promise." Leah placed a gentle hand on his shoulder. "Maybe one day she'll be strong enough to go home." Weeks passed again. Hope recovered completely. She began to climb, run, and explore her enclosure with energy. Every time the wind blew from the direction of the forest, she would lift her head, sniff the air, and make a soft rumble, as if remembering. Finally, the day came when the rescue team decided it was time to release her back into the wild. Aaron volunteered to be part of the release team. He couldn't imagine letting her go without seeing it through. They drove deep into the forest, the same road where everything had begun. The air was cool, and the morning sun painted the trees in gold. When they opened the cage door, Hope hesitated for a moment. She turned her head toward Aaron, eyes wide and calm. He smiled faintly. "Go on. You're home now." Hope stepped out slowly, sniffed the air, and then looked toward the distant hills. A moment later, she began walking into the trees, free, strong, and unafraid. Aaron watched until her golden-brown fur disappeared into the forest light. His heart felt heavy and full all at once. Dr. Leah stood beside him. "You did it," she said softly. Aaron nodded, wiping a tear. "No," he whispered, "we did." The wind rustled through the leaves, carrying faint sounds of birds and the whisper of distant life.